My beloved child, come closer for a moment, for the Spirit of the Lord is stirring the air around you as I speak. I can feel it as clearly as I feel the breath in my lungs. There is a trembling in the unseen world, a shifting, as though something long hidden is finally being uncovered. And before I reveal anything else to you, hear these words with the seriousness of heaven itself. Jesus is calling you by your name. Not calling a crowd, not calling a group, not calling a nation. He is calling you. There has been a storm. Yes, a real, spiritual storm, sent against your life. A storm that has been forming quietly, gathering darkness, drawing strength from the shadows. A storm that was not meant for your neighbor, not meant for another soul in this world, but crafted, targeted, and released against you. And yet, my child, the moment this storm began to move, the moment the forces behind it whispered your name in the dark, Jesus rose from his place, stepped forward, and said, "No. That one belongs to me." I don't know if you can feel it yet, but something divine is unfolding. You didn't stumble onto this message by chance. Heaven is not a place of accidents. You were drawn here, gently guided, almost escorted by invisible hands, because the message I am about to speak is the very message that will turn that storm away. There are moments in life when a person is walking toward danger without knowing it, when the clouds gather behind them, when the winds begin to turn, when darkness plots quietly, waiting for a moment of weakness. But then, in just the right hour, heaven intervenes. A whisper, a message, a warning, to rescue. My beloved child, this is that hour for you. This is that moment. This is that divine interruption. For Jesus is not merely calling out to you. He is begging for you. Not begging because he is weak, but begging because his love for you is fierce, because his desire to shield you is overflowing, because what was meant to harm you must now be stopped, and only your attention, your heart, your spirit can receive the protection he is offering in this very moment. The storm is not your destiny. The darkness is not your path. The attack is not your ending. This message, right here, right now, is the turning point heaven wrote into your story. My child, are you ready to hear what Jesus desperately wants you to know? My beloved child, listen closely, for the atmosphere around your spirit is shifting even as these words rise before you. There is something holy in this moment, something ancient and tender, something that has followed you since the day you first entered this world. Jesus has never spoken your name lightly. Each time he whispers it, heaven itself leans in. I want you to feel the weight of the truth, not just hear it. When Jesus calls your name, he calls it with all of eternity behind his voice. There were moments in Scripture when Jesus spoke a person's name, and everything in their life changed instantly. When he said Mary, of the empty tomb, all her grief melted and her hope returned. When he said Lazarus, come forth, death itself loosed its grip. When he said, Simon, Simon, Satan has desired to sift you, he was not warning to frighten, but warning to protect. Every time Jesus spoke a name, he revealed the depth of his love and the precision of his attention. And now, child of God, that same Jesus is speaking your name with that same depth, that same precision, that same urgency. Imagine for a moment the Lord of all creation stepping toward you. Not toward a crowd, not toward a church building, not toward a nation, but toward you. His eyes fixed upon your life, his heart tuned to the rhythm of your breath. He knows the exact number of tears you've cried in silence. He knows the fears you've tried to hide. He knows the questions you whisper at night when no one is watching. Nothing about you is forgotten in heaven. Nothing about you is overlooked. Nothing about you is small in His sight. You are known. And not known casually, not known in passing, but known intuitively. Your name is etched upon His hands. Your story is written in His memory. Your destiny is held within His plans. When Jesus calls you, it is not because He is unsure of who you are. It is because He remembers every detail of you so deeply that calling your name is like calling a piece of His own heart. And this is why His voice sounds different right now. This is why the calling feels urgent. This is why there is a trembling in your spirit as the words reach you. Jesus is not calling out of routine. He is calling because a storm has been moving toward you, a storm that did not come from Him, a storm that darkness crafted with precision, a storm that was designed to break something precious inside you. This is why His voice has come to you with such force, such tenderness, such longing. He knows what was sent. He knows what was planned. He knows what you didn't see, what you couldn't feel, what you were never meant to face alone. My child, you must understand this. Whenever Jesus calls your name urgently, heaven has already seen something you have not. He sees the attack before it reaches you. He sees the snare before you step into it. He sees the shadow before it touches you. He sees the darkness before it whispers your name. And because He sees what you cannot, His love rises before the danger does. His voice reaches you before the storm does. His command breaks the darkness before it can break you. There are angels who move at the sound of His voice. There are demons who tremble at the sound of His footsteps. There is no realm where His authority is ignored. And He has spoken your name within that realm. Do you understand how powerful that is? Jesus does not whisper your name for decoration. He speaks it to activate protection, to stir heaven's armies, to shift the course of what was meant to harm you. The way He calls your name right now is not the way He called it yesterday. Today it carries a weight that comes only in seasons of danger. Today His voice carries the tone of a shepherd pulling his lamb away from the edge of a cliff. Today His voice sounds like a father stepping in front of an arrow. Today His voice is urgent because heaven saw the storm before you did. And here you are, guided by His hands, sitting under the sound of this message. You didn't choose this moment. Heaven brought you into it. Jesus is calling you not with a gentle invitation, but with a protective cry. He is saying, "Come closer to me. Hear me. For your name has been spoken in the enemy's camp, and now I speak it louder. My beloved child, the King of Glory is not calling you because you are weak. He is calling you because you are chosen. He is calling you because your destiny has weight. He is calling you because darkness fears what you are about to become. The storm that was sent against you was not sent because you are insignificant. It was sent because you are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Jesus is calling your name because He refuses to let that storm touch you without warning. He refuses to let darkness write a chapter in your story without your consent. He refuses to let the enemy think he can approach you without heaven rising in response. And now the message continues, for there is more you need to hear. There is something you must understand about this storm that was sent against you, and why Jesus is fighting so fiercely for your attention. My beloved child, lean in once more, for what I am about to reveal is not spoken lightly. The Spirit of the Lord presses this truth upon my heart with a weight that cannot be ignored. There is a reason Jesus called your name with such urgency, and to understand it, you must first see the storm that was formed against you. Not a storm of rain or wind, but a storm woven in the shadows of the unseen world, pieced together by whispers, intentions, and assignments that were never meant for your good. Picture it for a moment. Far beyond what the natural eye can see, a dark cloud began to gather. Small at first, almost invisible. A single thought, a single temptation, a single discouragement that seemed normal. But slowly, carefully, quietly, that cloud grew. The enemy does not always strike with thunder. Often he begins with a gentle gloom, a subtle shift in the atmosphere of the soul. A heaviness here, a disappointment there, a quiet fear, a silent doubt. You may not have noticed it, but the storm had already begun to form. This storm was not accidental. It carried an assignment. It carried intention. It carried a purpose, to drain you, to distract you, to distort your vision, to weaken your courage, to keep you from stepping into the very calling heaven crafted for you. Darkness studied your patterns. It watched your moments of fatigue. It listened for the sighs you tried to hide, the heaviness you buried under a busy schedule, the quiet sadness you disguised as routine. The enemy used every tiny crack to gather clouds around you. And my child, let me tell you plainly, the enemy is patient when he crafts a storm. He layers thoughts like rain. He sends confusion like wind. He wraps lies like fog. He stirs up memories, fears, insecurities, all swirling together until a believer who once walked in clarity suddenly cannot see 3 steps ahead. This storm was meant to do exactly that. It was meant to blind you, to bind you, to break something inside you. But here is the part the enemy always underestimates. He forgets that heaven watches every movement he makes. He forgets that Jesus sees the forming of the storm before you feel the first drop. He forgets that nothing in the darkness can grow unseen by the light of the world. While this storm gathered, Jesus was already moving. He was watching. He was preparing. He was stepping forward long before you realized anything was happening. My child, the enemy observed something about you, something that threatened him deeply. He saw a change in you, a stirring, a growth, a strength awakening. He saw that you were close to a breakthrough, close to a rising, close to a moment that would shift your spiritual authority. Darkness is not afraid of Christians who stay quiet. He is afraid of Christians who wake up. And you were waking up. The storm was crafted because your spirit had begun to rise again. There was a new clarity forming in you, a new decision, a new hunger, a new direction. Heaven saw it. Hell noticed it. And because you were stepping toward a version of yourself that the enemy feared, he released the storm prematurely, hoping it would overwhelm you before you reached the next stage of your calling. But he's a step in front of it. I want you to imagine this with your spirit's eyes. The storm begins to move, swirling with force, stretching its intent toward your life. And suddenly, Jesus stands between you and the darkness. His presence alone causes the winds to hesitate. His voice causes the shadows to drink. His authority shakes the very foundation of the storm. He speaks your name, and even the demons holding the storm together begin to tremble. My beloved child, do you know why the enemy works in storms? Because storms distract. When a soul is caught in swirling confusion, they stop looking upward. They begin looking outward, around them, at the chaos. That is what the enemy wanted, to blind you with pressure so you could not see the hand of Jesus reaching for you. But Jesus would not allow that. He refused to let you face this unprepared. That is why his voice came so urgently, calling your name louder than the storm, pulling your attention back to the one who commands the winds and waves. And you, my child, might have felt moments recently where your emotions were heavy without explanation. Times when your thoughts were clouded. Times when your spirit felt unsettled. Times when your peace seemed fragile. Those were the winds of the storm trying to reach you. They were not random. They were not mere mood shifts. They were the early signs of a spiritual attack forming in the shadows. Yet look at you now. You have been drawn into this moment, into this message, into this revelation. This is proof, clear, undeniable proof, that Jesus intercepted the storm before it reached its full strength. He placed this message in your path not as a coincidence, but as a barrier, a shield, a divine interruption. Heaven brought you here to expose the attack so that the attack would lose its power. Storms grow strongest when they are hidden. But now the hidden is being brought to the light. And the moment darkness is exposed, it begins to lose its strength. My beloved child, there is something else you need to understand next. The enemy did not send this storm simply because he hates you. He sent it because he fears you. And what he fears is tied to what heaven placed inside of you. My beloved child, hear me with an open heart, for what I am about to reveal is the very reason the storm rose against you in the first place. Darkness never wastes its energy. The enemy does not assemble a storm for an empty vessel. He does not gather shadows around a person with no purpose. Whenever he launches an attack, it is because he sees something in you that you have not yet fully seen in yourself. Something heaven placed inside you long before you were born. Something precious. Something powerful. Something that threatened his kingdom. The enemy saw your potential long before you understood it. He observed the moments you brushed off as coincidence but were actually signs of calling. You watched the way your heart softened toward the things of God when you thought you were just feeling emotional. He watched how you rose from situations that were meant to destroy you. He noticed the resilience you did not notice in yourself. And every time you got back up, every time you refused to break, every time you pushed through something that was meant to crush you, darkness marked you as dangerous. Yes, my child, dangerous. Because a believer who has survived storms becomes a believer who can calm storms in others. A believer who has walked through darkness becomes a believer who exposes darkness. A believer who has tasted brokenness becomes a believer who carries compassion, and compassion is one of the greatest threats to the enemy's kingdom. He fears compassion because compassion heals. He fears kindness because kindness restores. He fears a heart that has suffered yet still loves because that heart reflects Christ himself. The enemy saw the gifts that lie inside you, gifts you may have doubted, minimized, or misunderstood. He saw the way your spirit responds to truth. He saw the sensitivity you carry, which you once thought was weakness but is actually discernment. He saw the strength in your endurance, the authority in your voice, the depth in your compassion. He saw that you are not ordinary. You never were. And in the unseen realm, darkness always reacts to chosen individuals. Just as heaven takes note of a rising light, hell takes note of it too. You are spiritual watchers that observe those who show signs of divine calling. Not to admire, no, my child, but to oppose. You became a threat the moment heaven's assignment on your life began to unfold. Consider how the enemy operates. He studies. He listens. He waits. He watches for that spark of destiny that begins to burn in a person's soul, and when he recognizes it, he moves against it. But he cannot attack you at the point of strength. So he attacks at the point of transition, when you are between who you used to be and who you are becoming. He strikes when you are stepping into a new level, because he fears what will happen once you fully arrive there. That is why the storm was released now. Not because you are failing, but because you are rising. The enemy saw the direction your spirit was turning. He saw a deeper hunger forming in you. He saw a clear sense of identity emerging. He saw the beginnings of spiritual maturity, moments where you chose truth over noise, moments where you forgave instead of retaliated, moments where you lifted your eyes instead of drowning in despair. Every one of those choices signaled growth, and growth signaled danger. My beloved child, you carry something heaven gave you that darkness cannot replicate. You carry a purpose that was whispered over you before your first breath. The enemy has no access to the blueprint of your destiny, but he can sense the light that shines from those who are chosen. And your light has been growing. So quietly, steadily. Even on the days when you felt dim, heaven saw a glow in you that darkness could not extinguish. Let me tell you the truth plainly. The storm was sent because of what you would become if it did not stop you. Because the enemy fears your influence. He fears the people you will help. He fears the breakthroughs you will trigger. He fears the healing you will bring, the words you will speak, the prayers you will pray, the transformation that will follow your obedience. He fears you because you are marked by heaven. And he knows something else too. Your heart belongs to Jesus, even in your moments of confusion. The enemy fears those who return to Christ again and again, even after pain, even after failure, even after doubt. Because loyalty forged in suffering is loyalty that cannot be shaken. You see, my child, darkness doesn't just attack because you have a calling. It attacks because you are close to walking in it. That is when the enemy panics. That is when he rushes. That is when he throws everything he can to distract you, confuse you, wear you down, and trap you in emotional storms. He saw what you were about to step into. He saw the shift in your spirit. He saw heaven preparing you, positioning you, strengthening you. And the storm was his attempt to stop the unfolding of what God has started. But he underestimated something. He underestimated Jesus' love for you. He underestimated the authority that covers your life. He underestimated your resilience. He underestimated the fact that heaven would never allow you to walk into this storm unprotected. And so the Lord himself stepped between you and the darkness. And now, because heaven exposed this attack, the enemy's strategy is falling apart. His grip is weakening. His storm is losing its power. For nothing designed in darkness can survive once the light reveals its form. My beloved child, now that you understand why the storm was sent, it is time to see what Jesus did to stop it. My beloved child, let your heart settle for a moment as I speak this to you with the gentleness of a father and the authority of a servant of Christ. You now understand the weight of the storm that was formed, and you understand why darkness targeted you. But here is the part that will shift something deep inside your spirit. Jesus did not wait for the storm to reach you. He did not wait for the first strike. He did not wait for you to crumble under the pressure. Long before the shadows moved, he moved first. Long before the darkness planned, he planned greater. And long before the enemy whispered your name in the night, Jesus declared your name in the light. Imagine the unseen realm for a moment. The storm had begun to swell. Dark forces gathered like clouds over your destiny, thinking they had the advantage. But as they lifted their hands to release the attack, suddenly the atmosphere shifted. A presence entered the battlefield. A presence so radiant, so powerful, so unshakable that even the oldest spirits of darkness trembled. It was Jesus himself stepping forward. He did not send an angel at first. He did not send a messenger. He came personally, because the battle that rose was not a small matter. You are not a small matter. And so Jesus, in all his authority, moved between you and the swirling chaos, and the storm froze. The winds that intended to blind you stopped mid-whirl. The shadows that wanted to surround you cowered like creatures caught in the light of morning. My child, the enemy knows Jesus. He remembers his voice from heaven. He remembers his power from the wilderness. He remembers his victory from the cross. He remembers his glory from the resurrection. And when Jesus steps into a battlefield, darkness does not negotiate. Darkness flees. Picture Jesus with his eyes fixed upon you. Not in anger, not in frustration, not in judgment, but with a fierce and unshakable love. Love that defends. Love that shields. Love that fights. And he speaks your name, not softly, not vaguely, but clearly. The sound of your name from his lips sends shockwaves into the storm. It is his way of declaring, "This one is mine." Those words alone unravel the plans of the enemy. In that moment, Jesus reached out his hand and broke the legal rights the storm thought it had. Every weapon darkness had been crafting, every thought it tried to plant, every plan it shaped in the shadows, it all began to crack and fall apart. Because when the king intervenes, the enemy loses the right to continue. And do you know what happens when Jesus speaks on your behalf? Angels gather. They do not walk. They do not stroll. They rush. They come like warriors summoned by the command of their captain. They surround the storm. They slice through the darkness. They bind the forces that dared to speak your name. They lift their swords, not of steel but of light, and they stand guard around the very areas where the enemy wanted to strike. You may not see this with the natural eye, but your spirit can feel the shift. Something heavy that once lingered around you has begun to lift. Something that once pressed against your heart has begun to weaken. This is not coincidence. This is not mood. This is not chance. This is deliverance unfolding right before you. Jesus did not only intercept the storm, he dismantled its center. He shattered the voice behind it. He weakened the wind within it. He commanded the darkness within it to retreat. And it is retreating even now, as these words enter your spirit. Not because of me, not because of this message, but because Jesus chose to interrupt your path with mercy. My beloved child, do you understand the depth of this love? He stepped in before you even asked. He fought for you before you even knew there was a battle. He defended you before you even prayed for protection. That is who he is. That is how deeply he loves you. That is how fiercely he guards those who belong to him. And now, because you have listened, because you have allowed your spirit to receive this truth, the last fragments of that storm are beginning to crumble. This message itself is part of the sword Jesus is using to cut the storm away from your life. What was rising against you is now falling. What was meant to overpower you is breaking apart. What was designed to confuse you is losing its grip. But hear me, child. When heaven reveals the works of darkness, heaven also calls you to action in the light. There is a holy responsibility placed upon those who receive messages meant to save, heal, and deliver. And so before we move to the next part, let me speak this gently into your heart. When you share the light, you strengthen the shield around your own spirit. When you spread the message of Christ, you help drive back darkness not only from your life but from the lives of others. When you connect, support, and stand with the voices God uses, you align yourself under the covering of that same anointing. It is not a task, it is a sacred duty, the kind that heaven recognizes and rewards. So as you move forward, carry this message with reverence. Share what strengthens the soul. Support what lifts the weary. Stand with what carries light. For in doing so, you join the very work Jesus is doing in your life right now. My beloved child, rest your spirit for a moment as we step deeper into this revelation. You have seen the storm that gathered against you. You have seen why darkness targeted you. You have seen Jesus rise to defend you. But now, you must understand why this moment, this very message, is the turning point heaven chose for your life. There are no wasted moments in the kingdom of God. Nothing he orchestrates is random. And the timing of heaven is always sharper, wiser, and more compassionate than our understanding. You did not come here by curiosity. You were drawn. You were led. Your spirit was guided. Heaven writes appointments long before we arrive at them, and this message is one of those appointments. For many days, perhaps even many months, you have been walking with questions deep in your heart. Quiet questions. Private questions. Questions you never dared to speak aloud. Questions about your purpose. Questions about your strength. Questions about why certain seasons have been so heavy. Questions about why you felt resistance even when you tried to do right. And heaven looked upon those questions with mercy, not silence. There are moments in your life when the voice of God must reach you with clarity, because the place you are standing in spiritually requires revelation, not routine. You have entered such a moment. This message is your turning point because the storm that was crafted against you depended on your confusion. It depended on your blindness. It depended on you walking forward without understanding what was rising against you. Darkness thrives in secrecy. It feeds on ignorance. It grows when its presence is unknown. But the moment heaven exposes the enemy's plan, the enemy loses his power. This message is not just information. It is spiritual illumination. It is pulling the covering off the storm. It is unveiling the hidden assignment. It is revealing the true nature of the pressure you have been feeling. What once felt like emotional exhaustion, what once felt like discouragement, what once felt like heaviness, now you see it clearly. It was not your weakness. It was not your lack of faith. It was a coordinated attack. And now that you see it, now that you understand it, its influence over your life is breaking. My beloved child, revelation is deliverance. When Jesus opens your eyes, chains begin to fall without anyone touching them. When heaven brings truth into your life, lies lose their grip. When the Spirit exposes darkness, the atmosphere around your soul shifts. And this message, this hour, this divine interruption is the moment the storm loses the power it once hoped to gain over you. But there is another reason. This is a turning point. The timing of heaven is always linked to destiny. There are certain doors you are meant to walk through, certain levels you are meant to rise in, certain blessings that were scheduled for this season of your life. And the enemy wanted to disrupt your alignment before you reached them. He wanted to cloud your clarity so you would miss your moment. He wanted to drain your strength so you would be too weary to step into the opportunities heaven has prepared. He wanted to break your confidence so you would question your worth, your calling, and your place in God's plan. But Jesus stepped in, not only to defend you but to realign you. His message is the realignment. You are returning to center. You are returning to focus. You are returning to spiritual awareness. And as this happens, the path before you becomes clearer. Your spirit awakens. Your discernment sharpens. You begin to recognize what is from God and what is not. You begin to feel the shift in your atmosphere. You begin to rise above the confusion that once pressed on you. Every time Jesus reveals truth, he positions his children to walk in victory. And that is what is happening to you. The storm that was meant to derail you is now becoming the very storm that reveals your strength. The attack that was meant to break you is becoming the attack that awakens you. What darkness meant for destruction, heaven is turning into awareness, clarity, and power. My child, you are not just being protected, you are being prepared. Jesus is not only shielding you from the storm, He is preparing you for the blessing that comes after it. There are things you are about to step into spiritually, emotionally, and even physically that require a heart that can discern the voice of God clearly. And that clarity begins here. This message marks the beginning of a new season of awareness. You will look back on this moment one day and say, "That was the hour everything changed. That was when my eyes opened. That was when my strength returned. That was when I finally understood what I was fighting." And now, my beloved child, it is time to understand something even deeper. You are not just being saved from this storm. You have a role in stopping it fully. Heaven has done its part. Jesus has fought for you. Angels have intervened. But there is something heaven is now placing in your hands. Something only you can do. Something vital to your deliverance. My beloved child, breathe deeply as we step into this revelation, for this part concerns you, your role, your authority, your response, and the power that heaven has placed within your own hands. Jesus has fought for you. Heaven has moved for you. Angels have been dispatched for you. But now heaven turns its attention toward your heart, because there is a portion of this battle that requires your voice, your agreement, and your willingness to step into the light that has been offered to you. You see, my child, every act of deliverance has two sides: the intervention of heaven and the cooperation of the believer. Jesus has already stepped between you and the storm, but He now calls you to rise into a posture that matches the protection He has provided. This is not a demand. It is an invitation, a holy invitation to join the very victory He has secured for you. There is something you must understand. When Jesus intervenes, He does not simply remove the danger. He strengthens the person He protects. He does not shield you so that you remain weak. He shields you so that you can rise without interference. The enemy tried to overwhelm you so that you would shrink, but Jesus stepped in so that you would grow. And now heaven waits for your heart to take its place in the story. My beloved child, your role in this deliverance begins with awareness. Awareness is spiritual power. When you recognize the enemy's tactics, you cannot be deceived by them. When you recognize that heaviness is not depression but attack, you resist it differently. When you recognize that confusion is not you being lost, but the enemy trying to disorient you, you rise with a different kind of clarity. The awareness you carry now is not small. It is heaven's way of placing a sword in your hand. Your role also involves alignment. The storm could only reach you if you drifted away from the voice that protects you. But now Jesus calls you closer, not out of fear, but out of desire. He longs for you to walk with Him in a level of closeness you may have forgotten. And closeness to Him is your greatest shield. My child, when you pull your heart into His presence, darkness loses access to you. When your spirit leans into His voice, the enemy loses the ability to whisper over your life. This alignment is simple. It is not made of complicated rituals or lofty prayers. It is made of surrender. It is made of choosing to turn your face toward Jesus each day, even if the turning feels small. It is made of walking with Him in honesty, not perfection. Do not think you need spiritual strength equal to giants. You only need willingness equal to faith. Heaven will do the rest. Another part of your role, beloved, is to speak. What you say matters. Your words are not empty. They carry weight in the realm you cannot see. Just as Jesus spoke your name to stop the storm, you must speak his name to walk away from it fully. You do not need to perform loud or dramatic declarations. The quiet Jesus, I choose you spoken from the heart breaks more chains than the enemy wants you to know. A whisper of Lord, I trust you reaches further into the heavens than 1,000 anxious thoughts. Your voice is a weapon. The storm hoped to silence you, but now your very words will dismantle its remnants. My beloved child, there is also your role in protecting the space around your life. You must guard your atmosphere, not with fear, but with wisdom. The enemy often tries to return with the same tactics he once used. He tests the doors he once rattled. But now that you know how he moves, you will recognize his approach before he reaches your heart. Guard your peace, for peace is divine armor. Guard your mind, for your thoughts are sacred ground. Guard your spirit, for you carry the imprint of God. And when those old feelings try to return, heaviness, confusion, discouragement, you will now say, I recognize this. This is not mine. This storm was broken. And with that recognition, the enemy will have no place to rest in you. But hear me gently, child. Your role is not to fight alone. It is to stand with the victory Jesus has already established. You are not fighting for freedom. You are fighting from freedom. You are not trying to earn protection. You are stepping into protection already purchased for you. Jesus does not ask you to defeat the storm. He asks you to stay within the refuge he created when he defeated it. There is one more part of your role, and it is one of the most powerful. You must remain open to God's next instruction. Whatever Jesus rescues, he also leads. He does not save you to leave you standing in the same place. He saves you to bring you into something greater. There is guidance coming, direction coming, clarity coming. And your role is simply to listen. Not anxiously, not fearfully, but expectantly. Heaven is not done speaking to you. This message is not the end of his communication. It is the beginning. And now, my beloved child, we move forward. Because once a soul understands its role in deliverance, heaven reveals the future that Jesus sees for that soul. A future the enemy tried desperately to hide. A future the storm was meant to obstruct. A future more beautiful than you may have dared to imagine. My beloved child, open your heart now, for in this unveiling, we step into the future that Jesus sees for you. A future the enemy hoped you would never discover. All the pressure, all the confusion, all the heaviness, all the hidden resistance you felt was not because you were moving backward, but because you were moving toward something radiant. And darkness trembles at the sight of a believer approaching their God-given destiny. You may think your future is uncertain. You may think your path is unclear. You may believe that too much has been lost or too much time has passed. But Jesus sees something completely different. When he looks at you, he does not see your failures, he sees your redemption. He does not see your weakness. He sees your strength rising. He does not see your broken chapters. He sees the story he is still writing. And my child, his story for you is not one of defeat. It is one of restoration, growth, and divine breakthroughs. Picture this with your spirit. Jesus stands before you, calm and sure, with eyes that hold your entire life inside them. Not just your present struggles, not just your past wounds, but the version of you that heaven has always intended. The healed you, the strong you, the clear-minded you, the peaceful you, the renewed you. The anointed you. That version is not far away. It is not out of reach. It is growing within you even now, like light awakening after a long night. The future Jesus sees for you is a future where the heaviness that once sat on your shoulders no longer has authority over you. It is a future where clarity replaces confusion, where hope replaces fear, where strength replaces weariness. It is a future where you walk with a deeper awareness of who you are in Him, where your steps carry confidence not because of who you have been but because of who He is shaping you to become. Jesus sees a future for you that is bigger than the storm that tried to silence you. He sees you stepping into opportunities the enemy tried to steal. He sees relationships restored, peace reclaimed, purpose rediscovered. He sees the very things that darkness tried to bury rising back to life. Some of the dreams you thought were not gone. They were protected. Heaven was waiting for the storm to pass so the seeds planted inside you could grow without interference. There is a strength forming in you now that will become part of this future. It is the strength of someone who has seen the enemy try and fail. It is the strength of someone who has felt darkness approach but witnessed Jesus stand in the way. It is the strength of someone who knows that every battle was survived for a reason. This strength will become part of your testimony, part of your voice, part of the way you walk into the next season of your life. My child, you must hear this. Jesus sees a future where you are not defined by the wounds of your past but by the healing of His hands. Every moment of heartbreak, every moment of pressure, every moment where you wondered if God still saw you, He was shaping something holy inside you. The storm was loud, but His protection was louder. And because the storm has been broken, you are now free to rise into the version of yourself the enemy hoped you would never become. In the future Jesus holds for you, your discernment will sharpen. You will recognize the signs of spiritual attack before they gather strength. You will walk with a level of peace that unsettles darkness. You will speak with a depth that touches hearts, because your words will carry the weight of your journey. You will move with purpose because you will finally understand why you survived what you did. Jesus sees you stepping into a space where your life becomes a light for others, because those who come out of stormy seasons carry a glow that cannot be faked. You will carry compassion that only comes from surviving nights of the soul. You will carry wisdom that only comes from choosing hope in the dark. You will carry authority that only comes from seeing Jesus fight for you personally. This is why the enemy feared you. This is why he rushed the storm. This is why the attack rose with such intensity, because he saw what Jesus was preparing you to step into. But hear this, my child. The future Jesus sees for you is not fragile. It is not uncertain. It is not hanging by a thread. It is secured by the one who has never lost a battle. Your story is not drifting. It is guided. Your steps are not random. They are ordered. Your destiny is not at risk. It is protected. And now, as we continue, it is time to witness something even more powerful. The storm that was sent against you is beginning to turn back, to crumble, to retreat. You must see how heaven reverses what darkness sends. My beloved child, come closer once more, for this is the moment where the unveiling becomes victory. You have seen the storm that formed. You have seen why it came. You have seen who you truly are in the eyes of heaven. You have seen the future Jesus is preparing for you. But now, it is time to witness the reversal, the turning back of the darkness that came against you. For no storm formed in the shadows can stand once the light of Christ has exposed it. And what was sent to break you is now unraveling, retreating, fading into nothingness under the power of His voice. Picture it in the Spirit. The storm that once swirled with intimidation now begins to thin. The clouds that once gathered with force begin to weaken. The whispers that once tried to invade your thoughts fall silent. This is not imagination. It is not emotional relief. It is the divine reality of what happens when Jesus steps into the battleground of a believer. Darkness does not simply pause, it collapses. It loses structure. It loses energy. It loses the very authority it thought it had. The storm is turning away from you because it cannot withstand the truth you now carry. The lies it tried to plant have been exposed. The fear it tried to stir has been named. The confusion it sent has been illuminated. And once exposed, darkness cannot linger. Its power is dependent on your blindness, but now your eyes are open. Its strategies depended on your silence, but now your voice is awakening. Its strength depended on secrecy, but now everything hidden hath been revealed. My child, storms in the spirit world behave differently than storms in the natural. Natural storms dissolve with time, but spiritual storms dissolve with truth. And it is truth that is flooding your life right now. The truth that Jesus has called your name. The truth that he saw the attack before you felt it. The truth that he stepped between you and the danger. The truth that you are chosen, marked, protected, and destined. Such truth is not merely comforting, it is dissolving the storm itself. Watch now with your inner eyes. See the winds that tried to pound against your heart weaken under the authority of Christ. See the fog that tried to cloud your mind disperse in the breath of his word. See the darkness that circled your path shrinking back into the shadows from which it came. The enemy who sent the storm is now withdrawing, not because he desires to, but because he must. No power of darkness can resist the name of Jesus spoken over one of his children. The storm thought it would overtake you, but it miscalculated the one who watches over your soul. It thought your weariness meant vulnerability, but your weariness triggered heaven's intervention. It thought your confusion meant defeat, but your confusion became the doorway for revelation. It thought your silence meant surrender, but Jesus heard that silence is a cry for protection. And he answered, "My beloved child, feel the shift around your spirit. Something heavy that tried to settle over you has loosened its grip. Something that pressed on your emotions has lifted. Something that tried to push you into discouragement is losing its influence. The enemy's plot is crumbling, not because you fought it, but because Jesus refused to let it stand. Now the path before you is clearing. The atmosphere around you is brightening. The weight that once felt familiar is dissolving, and a new steadiness is rising in your spirit. This is the sign of a reverse storm. Not only does darkness retreat, but peace begins its gentle return. The peace that surpasses understanding. The peace that comes from knowing you are protected. The peace that says, "I am not alone." The peace that Jesus himself promised. My child, hear this clearly. The storm was not your future. It was an interruption. It was an attempt. It was a desperate move by darkness to stop something heaven had already approved. And since heaven approved it, the storm could not overturn it. Your destiny remains intact. Your path remains blessed. Your calling remains secure. The storm was temporary. Jesus is eternal. And now that the storm has turned away, there is one revelation you must receive. One final message. One final prayer that will seal this deliverance, secure your peace, and mark the end of this spiritual battle. My beloved child, come close now, for we are stepping into the sacred moment of this journey. You have walked with me through the revelation of the storm, the reasons behind the attack, the intervention of Jesus, and the future he holds for you. But now heaven desires to seal everything that has been spoken, so that no force of darkness, No whisper of deception, no remnant of fear can rise again to challenge your peace. This is the moment where your spirit settles, your heart rests, and the hand of Jesus closes the door the enemy tried to open. Listen carefully, my child. Jesus is still here. His presence has not left you for a second through this message. He hath been watching your heart respond. He has felt the stirring within your spirit. He has seen the shadows breaking off you. And now, with the tenderness of a shepherd and the authority of a king, he places his hand upon your life and speaks peace over you. This is not temporary peace, not fragile peace, not the kind of peace you have to fight for every day. No, this is the peace that flows from his own heart, steady, unbreaking, unshakable. There is a stillness around you now, a clarity forming within you, a gentle warmth settling around your spirit. That is Jesus making his nearness known. The storm is behind you. The attack has been revealed. The darkness has retreated. And you, beloved child, are standing in the protection of the one who called your name before the foundations of the world. You are safe. You are covered. You are seen. I want you to hear these words as if Jesus himself were whispering them into your soul. My child, I have fought for you. I have defended you. I have shielded you. And I will not allow the darkness that rose against you to return. You are mine. I stand between you and every shadow. I seal your future with my love. Feel those words settle inside you. Let them become part of your breath, part of your heartbeat, part of your identity. You may have walked into this message carrying weight, confusion, or fear. But you are walking out with something entirely different. You are walking out with awareness. You are walking out with strength. You are walking out with divine protection that has already gone before you. And you are walking out with the understanding that you were not saved from the storm by accident. You were saved because you are deeply, fiercely loved. My beloved child, before we close, let me speak a final truth to your heart. Messages like this do not simply pass through your life. They become anchors. They become shields. They become reminders in the days to come when the enemy attempts to whisper the lies he once tried to plant. When that moment arrives, you will remember what heaven revealed here. You will remember the voice of Jesus calling your name. You will remember the storm that fell because of his presence. And you will stand tall, knowing you are not who darkness tried to convince you that you were. And now, as a father in the Spirit, let me pray over you. Heavenly Father, in the name of your Son Jesus, I lift this beloved child to you. I pray that your hand remains upon them, stronger than ever. Let every remnant of fear dissolve. Let every shadow that tried to return be scattered. Let every whisper of darkness fall silent. Surround this soul with the light of your presence. Guide their steps. Strengthen their heart. Fill their mind with clarity, their spirit with peace, and their path with favor. Protect them from every assignment of the enemy. Cover them under the wings of your glory. And let the future you prepared come forth without delay. Seal their life in your love. Seal their journey in your mercy. Seal their destiny in your hands. In Jesus' mighty name, let it be so. And now, my child, as you go forward from this moment, walk with confidence. Walk with calmness. Walk with assurance. If this message touched you, strengthened you, protected you, or awakened you, then let heaven see your response. Let your actions echo gratitude. Let your support, your sharing, your spreading of this light become part of your offering to the one who rescued you. Let others receive what delivered you. Let the message that shielded you become a shield for someone else. That is not a burden. It is a holy privilege. You are covered. You are loved. You are protected. And the storm has turned away. Amen.